What's up, guys? We are here. Davey Longhorns wrapping up, and Davey Longhorns, because you are the finale of a 3-part series tonight. I had Patrick Big Burfa Burfalette, Garrett Jones on here earlier, so some really good guests, and then Longhorns here as the anchor to finish. What's going on, man?
Oh, not too much, man. I don't know if I can ever live up to those big-time guests you had before, but, I'm just going to try to do my best and not disappoint whatever one or two fans that might be listening to this right now.
Oh, you cut me deep there. Oh, Longhorns. You know what's funny? You want to put the camera up a little bit, or you love being – because I want you to get more on top of it.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I was slouching in the chair. I was like trying to be like comfortable CEO, but you know what?
I Matt Patricia'd you.
You did.
You got to get your posture better. I alpha'd you. Speaking of Jordan, G-Men 409, what's going on? I will address the chat a little bit during this time. And let's do it. Let's open up with a little bit of Giants talk here, really for the YouTube fans. Let's give the fans what they want. And there's nothing better to talk about. I butchered the last part of that line, Longhorns. There's nothing better to talk about Giants football than talk about Giants football and arrests, right? There's nothing that gets you going quite like guns, guys getting thrown behind jail. It's no coronavirus. It's Deandre Baker. I mean, the thing is, Dave, I don't want to take away your thunder, but analyze Baker, the money he's making, the scheme, what went on in Florida?
What went on in Florida? I mean, you know what's really bizarre about what goes on? So he gets this aggravated assault, arrest, robbery, all these good charges.
Impressive.
Supposedly, he's accused of stealing like $12,000, watches, jewelry. Gets arrested. Police have affidavits. Once again, it's a little bit of a he said, she said, because supposedly there isn't video out yet. And then his lawyer comes out with this big time statement yesterday, basically saying it's all a lie. I don't know if you saw that, Spencer. His lawyer comes out with the statement. I've got affidavits from other people that would completely, what's the right word here? Would go against the witnesses' testimony, and then saying the same witnesses' testimony or the same people that they have affidavits from saying that, Baker and Dunbar are innocent. So it's a very weird situation. My opinion of it right now is, what's Deandre Baker even doing there? Obviously he did something. Did he rob them? I don't know. Too early to say at this point. Could all be dropped. Obviously put himself in a position where he really shouldn't have been. And then the thing that's about Deandre Baker, once all this stuff comes to light, you start looking at his Twitter handle. People start looking at him a little more carefully. Something the Giants maybe should have done, but I mean, I'm not, Spencer, you know me, I'm like the last person to stereotype anyone. I mean, this guy does not look like he comes from the cleanest background, and it was a little bit alarming when you saw his Twitter handle. You and I were going back and forth on some of these tweets back from like 2017, 2018, and these charges it wouldn't shock you after you see this guy's Twitter handle. It just doesn't utterly shock me now.
Yeah. Now, one thing you could point to is you could point to the kid that like goes to a college, and you can point to like at 17, this is high school, and then he gets to Georgia and it kind of changes. But in the Twitter account, he's kind of alone in the Twitter account now.
Not to cut you off, but those are 2018, 2019 type of tweets though. So, he got drafted in 2019. You have to be 3 years out of high school. So at least, talking sophomore year,
Yeah, and these are like glorifying robberies, glorifying the GTA lifestyle. Now, this all is interesting because when you look at Twitter, it gets painted in a terrible light. You look at DiVincenzo, Josh Allen, like the biggest moment of people's lives, they go back and they just tear apart people's Twitter accounts. But this really leads to the main debate. Okay. First, before we get into like the big question that I have, DeAndre Baker. DeAndre Baker. So people said that they saw Baker here. So how is he going to get out of this one? And I don't think Baker has the clout to get them to remove the case.
No, I don't think this comes down to clout or anything like that. I do agree with that. He's not big enough to where, a DA is going to make an example out of him, but he was also not big enough to just get out of it based on name also. And really, I don't know what to make of it, because I thought it seemed pretty open and shut that he did this. And then the lawyer comes out with that very, very, very strong statement, which most lawyers, when these guys get arrested, don't come out with a statement that strong, which was very interesting.
What, that it was somebody else?
Yeah, I don't give me a second here, because.
Well, one thing, the lawyer, I wasn't that shocked, because you don't want to just admit that happened.
No. But he basically called everybody a flat out liar. It wasn't like one of those, a lot of times lawyers will stay quiet, and just kind of say, we're going to gather all the evidence, all that type of good stuff,
Yeah, G-Man 409. Yeah, G-Man 409 says maybe he could beat it. Urson the Great saying, what's Baker's Twitter account? I think I just looked up his name in Twitter. It came through. Now, the thing is, though, that really is interesting. We knew about the card game the night before. That's kind of the bizarre part, how we know so many details about that card game and him losing the card game.
Yeah, so his lawyer came out and said yesterday, he guarantees the case is going to be dismissed.
The lawyer.
Yeah. He said, go look at the criminal history of the victims, go look at the criminal history of Baker. And you know what the score is? 100-0. Baker. Basically saying these people are liars and Baker is a good guy. Now, once again, I'm not, I'm not judging one way or the other. Another quote here is, they are ruining this kid for no reason at all, other than that he was an easy mark, and I believe that this is an extortion to try to get money from him. So the lawyer is not just coming out with strong statements, but he's 100% doubling down on it at the same time.
Wow. Because the one thing about Baker is that he has never gotten in trouble, but you now heard reports about Baker. So now I'm getting to really the meat of the story, which is Dave Gettleman and all of this. And you know me, Dave, there's no bigger Dave Gettleman fan on the planet than maybe his own children. And I even blamed Gettleman for drafting Baker, because I looked at Baker, and then you go back and read some of the reports, and at Georgia, he was kind of lazy. I gave Baker the benefit of the doubt last year when he was sleeping in meetings. I said, Betcher's a fraud. It isn't Baker's fault. But if you're Dave Gettleman, your job as a GM is to project, how will this guy play in a 10-year role? How will this guy play over 8 years? How will this guy play to a second contract? He spent valuable pieces to move up into the first round, the draft Baker. Is there blame on Gettleman, or is this Baker just doing something totally out of character and Gettleman could have never prepared for this?
I think that there's definitely blame on any GM when a player gets arrested, because at some point you have to find someone to blame, and these guys are in high positions, and sometimes blame isn't always fair. But I think is there blame on Gettleman? Yes. I mean, he's your guy. And right now it seems like football-wise, it really has not worked out year one. And now off the field, it's definitely not working out. Whether this gets dropped or not, it's a distraction. Now, is it a big blemish on Gettleman? I really don't think so. It's not like this is Daniel Jones making these type of issues. And honestly, Dexter Lawrence, a guy who, when I say off the field issues coming in, tested positive for some banned substance. So I don't even know if that's really an off the field issue, other than,
You're right. And if Dex, say that Laramie Tunsil in year one did something this horrific, then you would point to the Dolphins and say, see, the guy was smoking weed. How could you be so naive? He was smoking. How could you have drafted him, you idiots? Of course this was going to happen. But Baker, He's never gotten arrested. Now, the thing is, Dave, is that Dunbar, though, the other NFL player, his lawyer pretty much sent him in. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, because I don't know all of Dunbar's details. I'll be quite honest about that. I know with Deandre Baker and Dunbar, both of their lawyers were trying to get the charges dropped, and basically the Miramar police, or I don't know if it was Miramar or Broward County, where I don't know which was the arresting department at that point, basically said charges can be dropped, but they still have to come in and get arrested first. Basically, the warrant was always going to be active until they came in and honored a warrant.
Right.
So, one way or the other, I guess the legal process will happen.
Yeah. So now you look at Baker, and so someone here says no witnesses, there isn't going to be a case. So then it's going to be like a he said kind of issue. What do you think is going to happen then? Because I don't know if there are cameras that could have seen this.
Now there's supposedly a video, around. Once again, I agree with the YouTube video, the YouTube commenter here. If there are no witnesses now, if there is a video, maybe not, it's around. Who knows, actually? But no witnesses. This thing will be thrown out in, 2 seconds.
So you mean Baker will be innocent?
I think it gets thrown out and possibly settled out of court in, some other way. But yeah.
And these witnesses to Baker's defense, they could be against Baker because maybe Baker made enemies. Maybe they're coming from it. They see a big fish that they can get after.
I think, in my opinion, there's something here. There really is. And I think that's the reason why when the Giants have kind of taken that step, it's kind of that classic PR, but like you got to read in between the lines. They've taken that step and told them to stay away from teams. They're like, oh, worry about your legal proceedings at this point. They're not sure that they might know more about it than we do. Yeah.
And I think the Giants are going to have that intel. Prod Snorkel says, this guy Rover, this is a really great quote. You're probably reading this too. This guy Rover talks so much shit on the Bears, but he's a Panther fan. Ha ha. I'm a diehard Panther fan.
I think if anyone's a Panther fan here, it might be myself, but
it might be yourself. Exactly. But the logo's fantastic. I was in Charlotte. I had to get this shirt. You've gone airport shopping for shirts.
I mean, that's how like most people get their souvenirs. Let's call it like it is. Like
you're bored in the airport.
No, yeah, either you're bored in the airport or like you forgot to get the souvenirs, and out of nowhere, what do on your way home? Oh, let's get this, and this. Yeah, I brought you something. Yeah. Oh, I got this downtown Charlotte. I got this from a street vendor, and really, you got it all in the airport.
All at the freaking airport, and then people say you live in Charlotte or whatever, and you pretty much just like had a connection flight there, and that's usually how it works. But if you ever went to a title game or the Final Four, it's so much fun to get the souvenirs before the ride home.
Oh yeah. The best part about the best time to shop during the Final Four or the title game, it's like the day after. Everything goes on, like if there's anything left, it's on a 50, 70% sale. You're up to the mercy of what's left in the stores.
That's exactly right. And those trips are certainly special. I love the camaraderie the day after when people are dead tired, they're hungover, and you're on the line and you went to the city to watch that sporting event. It brings people together. So we're here. Davey Longhorns is here. We're talking about Deandre Baker. So now Baker, this case is probably going to go on for a while. If Baker is not put in prison, I think that he might go back to Giants camp and the Giants might have Baker. What do you think?
I don't think Baker ever sees a day more jail at this point. I don't think he'll ever be back in jail. He'll be back in court and all that possibly. But, I think that was the main question is, depending on how bad it is, do the Giants potentially cut ties with him? You're telling him to stay away from the team. Obviously, that's a strong statement. They have not done that for Quentin Dunbar in Seattle. Now, everything with the guaranteed money, I don't know every contract detail, but I think it's a major thing. I think it's a major storyline that's going on right now.
Well, Clocks brings up a really good point about Baker.
Yeah.
And he says that Baker's been charged of 8 charges. I think it might have been 5 or it might be 8. So that means 8 separate cases of Baker. And if we go back to the original story, he ordered someone to shoot somebody else. He was armed. He was pretty much the catalyst behind this whole operation. There has to be video. There's so many different people saying it's Baker. And I don't know the size of this party. We need these details. But if there's 8 charges, that just seems crazy. It's not like a one witness account.
Yeah, but I have not seen what all 8 charges are exactly. Are some of the charges things that would really just tie in together into one charge, if that makes sense? Like, a gun charge and then, robbery. A lot of times guns go with robberies and things like that. So I don't think it's like 8 separate things that they're really. I think it's technicality things, which are big deals, but it's not like he committed 8 different crimes, if that makes sense.
Joe Judge in this position could put on the power stamp on DeAndre Baker. This isn't the same analogy, but in the NBA, it was a layup for Adam Silver to deal with Donald Sterling and his misdoings. And Joe Judge here could put a power move on the team if he does cut DeAndre Baker after all of this as a new coach and the image of Joe Judge. Like, do you think that's going to play into this at all with the new head coach?
Well, I think it really is going to come down to if they were to get rid of Baker. It's 95% a football decision that they're going to use the legal aspect of it as a excuse, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because last year he ranks by Pro Football Talks like one of the worst rated quarterbacks that qualified for their rankings. I don't know how they do this stuff, all these different metrics. He was pretty bad. I'm not a cornerback metric guy. I just read what they say.
But he wasn't in position at all. He was terrible in the first couple games. He just didn't know his assignment. He was flat bad last year.
And a lot of that, I would still say, has to do with him.
And guess what? If he was sleeping in meetings anyway, he's not worth the headache. He's been in the building a whole year. If he's not worth the headache, I say you get rid of him.
And then will he be good somewhere else? Very possible. But
they got to put him in press, and he was good in college. But you got to put him in press then.
Yeah, but it's one of these things. Do you really want him? Do you think he meshes well with Joe Judge? Is he, is that his type of guy? To me, it seems like DeAndre Baker would work great in Seattle, where Dunbar is.
Like a loose, we don't give a crap who we have on the team. We don't care what they do. Kansas City, same way.
Yeah, but also I think that, certain guys know how to handle these type of players better,
Yeah, an example is maybe Sean Payton.
Yeah,
Sean
exactly.
Payton wants to bring in Antonio Brown. He never shies away from controversy.
100%.
Sean Payton. Who else in football? What other teams? Eagles?
You would know that better than I do. I don't know, Doug Peterson, how loose he is or isn't.
Not that loose. I mean, the Eagles brought in Vic, but, that was, again, Andy. Andy's going to bring in
Packers, potentially.
That's a very conservative organization, though.
It's conservative, but it's out in the middle of nowhere, so it's like one of those you could kind of just forget that he's even there.
Well, Baker can get his thing going in Green Bay.
It would be a great organization for him to go to? The Las Vegas Raiders. Out there with Chucky, all the lights of Vegas.
Like Mayock. Oh, he could go to the casinos there. He could run there. But it's
Hey, quickly. They say he lost $70,000 in a dice game. Well, he can lose $70,000 legally in a dice game there.
But I don't know how he'd do robbing the casinos, robbing the house.
Yeah, well, don't worry. It wouldn't even be an arrest. He'd just be dead.
Well, he could watch like Ocean's 13. He could watch movies and get ideas.
Exactly. He'd just be dead.
How about a Green Bay? Stephen Avery. He could run with him.
I actually think that's that type of fit could be good. Minnesota.
Buffalo.
You got the drunk guy in Oliver. I don't know.
Go north of the border. Yeah. How about that? This is really drunk NFL players effing up season. I mean, Cody Latimer, he's getting his name. I would have forgot Cody Latimer completely existed if not
Another
for this.
Gettleman guy.
Cody, Indiana guy, Indiana Bloomington degree. Is he on the Broncos? Who the heck knows where Cody Latimer is?
He's right now with the not the Raiders, the Redskins.
Raiders? The Redskins. And is Reuben Foster on the Redskins?
I don't know. That's great.
Reuben Foster.
Reuben, let's look him up.
Yeah, because Reuben, he kind of always had the potential. Darius Geis is another guy, Dave, that slipped in the draft because he was playing too many video games. You remember that, don't you?
Yeah, apparently he's with the Redskins right now.
Yeah. So you look at Reuben Foster, or we were talking about Latimer. Who, the Washington has a lot of weapons anyway. That's not really going to be a big deciding factor. But when I look at the Giants cornerback room, it comes down to Sam Beal. If Sam Beal can stay healthy, James Bradbury, you watched a lot of Panthers games. He is not a lockdown corner. He's getting a little bit overpaid just for his market. Don't you think Bradbury's not that good?
I think the whole cornerback market in general got overpaid. I think Byron Jones was a little overpaid, but I think it's one of these things that you see the premium on the position with the passing that the passing league it's become. Guys who can just play without flat getting burned. It's not even necessarily about being 100% an island lockdown guy like the Darrelle Revises or Josh Normans back in the day. Like when you thought about these guys getting paid the $15 million, it's about, can you stay in front? Can you force incomplete passes? And I think Bradbury does that to an extent. I agree. I think he's a little overpaid, but
yeah, and I think that just the interception numbers can be really misleading as well.
No, I think interceptions a lot of times can be a lot like steals in the NBA. It actually sometimes could be the most misleading number there is. Just because you're jumping in front and getting interceptions doesn't necessarily mean you're not giving it all back on the other ends. But
so Dave, I'm kind of going all around all around here. We're talking about the Giants. We're talking about Baker. I had this conversation earlier with somebody tonight. They said the Patriots are going 5-11. Do you really think that the Patriots are just going to mail in this season, or is that complete bullshit?
Well, I mean, there's a couple theories out there. I mean, one theory that's still, I don't see it, but who am I to judge it in some ways compared to Bill Belichick? A lot of reports are he really believes in Jared Stidham. Would people have said the same thing going into a season in 2002 if, Tom Brady was their quarterback? I know it's not how it really played out, but, does he see something in him? Every quarterback that Bill Belichick has ever seemed to touch has been good with the Patriots, So 5-11, I don't buy it. I think that's foolish talk at its very core. I mean, every quarterback that has played for the Patriots has always been better than when they leave.
Yeah. And their defense is phenomenal. Their offense wasn't even that good last year. Everybody's penciling in the Bills like they're this tremendous organization, like Sean McDermott and Josh Allen are the most trusted people that are never going to lose. The Bills had the easiest schedule in the NFL last year, barely survived game after game. They played Cincinnati, Washington, Miami to start. The Bills just got so lucky to start the year like they did.
Yeah, I mean, the Bills are a good team, good up-and-coming team. But, I mean, we were talking about it all year last year on our pods or whatever segments we would do. It was kind of like when the Patriots were 8-0. I mean, I'm not going to pound my chest because I'm not right on a lot of things. When they were 8-0, and everyone was like, basically penciled them in to win the Super Bowl. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that talk.
I'm the one person who was saying, and I think a lot of it has to go with the same theory on the Bills. Like, yeah, this was a ridiculously easy schedule. Show me the teams that they had played, and it was nothing, And
you were right. They had the Baltimore loss. Then the Texans lost. I'm like, yeah, that's just a game that it's a regular season game. Like I compared it to Tennessee in 2018.
Yeah.
When Ryan Fitzpatrick drove it down their throat and they didn't clinch the number 2 seed, that was the oddest Patriots game I've ever watched in my life. Seeing Fitzpatrick actually beat them and come through. Still thought they would beat Tennessee, but now I'm like, wow, this road's going to be ridiculous. If they would have beaten Miami and had that home playoff game, I might have even picked them maybe to go to the championship. Then I might have picked Kansas City at that point. But yeah, that was shocking. I can't believe they lost that Miami game and lost that bye week.
But then we still go back to the same point of the Bills. Like they both in division basically had, I think, like 14. Like if you count the fact that the Bills and the Patriots play each other, and you count that as the same game, I think they have like 14 to 16 same games.
Right.
So it just it was a very easy schedule. It's what it is.
I'm going to do the Stidham spin zone here. And a lot of times I give credit to guys that are not getting credited, and then I try to drag down people who do get credited. That's kind of like the Rover theme.
Yeah.
It's my thing. All right. So I think Jarrett Stidham, I can blame all his problems on 2 individuals, Chip Lindsey and Gus Malzahn. If you look at the career of Jarrett Stidham, he beat Alabama at home. He beat Nick Saban and Jalen Hurts. He beat them like a drum in that game. It was one of the best games he ever played. He hosted Georgia the week before. They won 40-10. Jarrett Stidham, I mean, he did play UCF in a game where Auburn just didn't care. It's an American Conference opponent. And then they played Georgia, Alabama, and then they played Georgia again in 3 consecutive weeks. Jarrett Stidham during his junior year was a damn good football player. His senior year, you had the offensive coordinator issues. Yes. Was he great against Clemson? He was a disaster against Clemson. Was he good at all during the season against LSU? I think he was pretty terrible. At times during his senior season, he wasn't good. But you look at Jarrett Stidham, he's a 4-star recruit. Arm talent, check. He can throw at 65 yards. Jarrett Stidham has touch on the football. He has poor pocket presence, very poor pocket presence, but he's an athletic thrower of the ball. He does have upside. If you watch Jarrett Stidham throw at a pro day, he's going to impress you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely could agree. And I think it also says a lot to kind of where they were in the draft, and then this year where they value guys, different things,
Well, Dave, you know what's interesting? Finley was taken way ahead of Stidham. Mason Rudolph taken way ahead of Stidham.
Mm-hmm.
I was so shocked that Finley was, and I didn't see anything out of Finley, but I don't know.
Mason Rudolph was a year before Stidham.
Sorry. Yeah, but he's a 4th rounder, though. Yeah. Meanwhile, Stidham.
Yeah, it's all about, your preference. I mean, also, the rumors have just been absolutely rampant all offseason that Deshaun Watson is a Patriot. Like, people talk about this as if it's a foregone conclusion that he's a Patriot in a year.
So wait, Deshaun's going to be a free agent?
No, but there's like a trade. People think that there's basically, he's not going to agree to a long-term deal. They're going to want to. I mean, we've talked about this a few weeks ago. All the odds makers have him being the starting quarterback week 1 for the 2021 season. The best odds.
Bill O'Brien.
I mean, we've talked about this on previous shows.
And then actually, Jarrett Stidham can be Garoppolo.
Yeah, so it's hard to tell. I mean, I think
that would be awesome for the Patriots.
I think what this is coming down to more is that Belichick. One, it's 2 things. One, either values Stidham a lot more than most, maybe not, or 2, just does not value anyone in this free agency market, or didn't value people in the draft the way it would be needed not to get a look at Stidham or something like that.
If I'm a Patriot fan, I would honestly get excited about Stidham more so than Jameis, more so than Cam, Cam is really hurt. Cam's not a future long-term quarterback at that position. That's like a fix. That's a win now move.
Yeah.
I think Stidham is the right play. You see what you have. If you bomb, then it's Deshaun Watson, or then you get 3 quarterbacks next year that are highly touted. I'm putting Trask in that mix, but it's really Justin Fields and it's Trevor Lawrence.
Put Trask in that mix, other than your opinion as being.
You would not put him in the mix.
I'm saying as the highly touted mix. I wouldn't.
You would not. Do you have an? Are you putting? Oh, you could put the guy, your boy, North Dakota State University.
You could. I wouldn't call him highly touted yet. I think there's 2 guys that are highly touted today in Fields and Trevor Lawrence. Then yeah, maybe your opinion, it could be Trask. I'm not disagreeing. I'm saying just like consistently on these projections, it seems like there's 2 guys at the top already, and then it fluctuates. These names fluctuate so greatly, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And
anywhere from as I've seen Trask, I haven't seen Trask actually on anyone's number 3. I've seen him at as high as 5. I've seen people with Ellinger. I've seen KJ Costello, which is a joke to me.
I think Ellinger's more of a joke.
I actually disagree with that. I think, a guy definitely can do it.
Well, you're Dave Longhorns.
Yeah, but also Ellinger actually checks a lot more boxes than I was. I was actually surprised with Ellinger's play this year. I think it checks a lot more boxes. I don't think you've watched a ton of Texas,
I know Ellinger. He's tiny, and he can't throw a deep ball, and he has very limited mobility.
Okay, so then you definitely don't know who Sam Ellinger is at all then. Sam Ellinger is a great runner.
Yeah, he's good in between the.
You don't even know who Sam Ellinger is.
He's a power runner. He's not going to out-juke people. I've watched plenty of Sam Ellinger. I've watched him lose to Maryland every year. I've watched Sam Ellinger. I watched him against Oklahoma do decently. I watched him against TCU and Baylor. Like, I've watched him put up stats. I've watched him pretty much throw jump balls to Colin Johnson while Johnson will box out guys. Sam Ellinger. So you think he's a 2nd-round pick, right? Ellinger.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's I've seen him in like that 3 to 4 mode, of quarterback. I can see it. I mean, does he have a big arm? Probably not, but he's fairly accurate. I think he's kind of could remind you a little bit of a Minshew, with the mobility, quick decision maker, this type of thing. A little bit of a different offensive scheme. I mean,
yeah.
Like, I think a lot of these guys are, I think the thing that I don't get enamored with as much is like, you're saying this guy's small. I mean, so off the top of your head, how big is Sam Ellinger?
6'1".
Incorrect. 6'3", 230. So he's not a small guy.
I don't know. It must be television or something.
It just is. And you're telling me he's slow and he's a runner too. So like, I think you need to go back and watch him a little.
Well, you watch more Texas than me.
Yeah, well, you gave a great.
I gave a ringing endorsement.
You gave a ringing endorsement on probably all the opposites of Sam Ellinger.
Well, Ellinger doesn't make any next level throws.
I would disagree with that. I don't think he makes many, but I think he does make some.
He's all right, but it's very ball control offense.
Oh, I would agree with that, but I'm not even sitting here. But I'm just saying Ellinger. Then you see that guy, Trey Lance.
Yeah, they're talking about Purdy of Iowa State.
Purdy's like. I don't know.
You're against Purdy.
I'll take Sam Ellinger any day of the week over Purdy.
Yeah, Purdy had like a couple of good games as a freshman. He was very good.
You want to talk about immobile?
I think Purdy is mobile.
No, he's not. I don't think he's as mobile.
Purdy is very fast.
Maybe.
Him and his brother Bubba from Arizona. But then
Purdy also. You're talking about Purdy being so fast. I mean, if you want to go. Do you want to compare running numbers between him and Ellinger?
Well, Ellinger, it gets design runs. Ellinger is a lot stronger than Purdy.
Yeah, Purdy averages 2.7 a carry
Ellinger's the QB draw machine.
Ellinger also had bad offensive line last year. Got sacked 32 times. Had no offensive line really because of injury. Purdy got sacked 16, and yeah, Ellinger, because you know the way that works in college, it goes against your rushing numbers,
right?
Sacks. Ellinger still averaged 4 yards a carry more than him at 6'8".
Anthony Machucha chimes into the show. Yeah, Brady and the Bledsoe. Yeah, Bledsoe maybe was never the answer, but Bledsoe was very, very good. Anthony, I definitely. I think Brady was just like a flyer in the 6th round that they just got incredibly fortunate to get. Prod Snorkel brings up Jamie Newman from Georgia. That's a guy who's been getting a lot of hype. Now I'm not the biggest Jamie Newman fan. I don't think
How many games of Jamie Newman have you watched?
I watched just the highlights on like YouTube. Yeah, he's not very tall though. I think he's only 6'1".
He see once again he's another guy that seems to have, how do you say, a very good feel for the game. I once again completely wrong on that 6'4". He's a 6'4".
Newman?
Yeah, I think you gotta just go back and evaluate some of these guys before. I'm not gonna allow you to comment anymore on that.
Listen, I think that Costello will be drafted ahead of Sam Ellinger. I'm ready to make that bet right now.
It's very possible. I wouldn't doubt it.
Okay, I think Ellinger's a 6th round pick, maybe 7th.
Maybe he doesn't get picked at all. I mean, shoot, I'm not.
Because Sam Ellinger, like you just see a lot.
I would have agreed with you going into last season that there's no way that he gets drafted. And then I watched him last season, and he pretty much, with no offensive line to speak of, with all the injuries and stuff like that, he had a very good year. So I would agree he's probably more of a 3rd, 4th round talent. I mean, you think 6th, I think maybe 3rd, 4th. I think he's a lot more mobile than I don't even think you've watched him. So I think his pocket mobility, even at that, is very good. Ability to extend plays, and things like that. And you're looking at a receiving core that basically, your best receiver was Devin Duvernay, a 4th round pick. I mean, you're talking about Colin Johnson. I mean, the guy is slower than molasses. Like, he got picked in maybe like the 7th round.
Yeah.
LJ Humphrey, everyone was all Ellinger had him a year ago, didn't even get drafted. So maybe Ellinger is, making some of these guys into a little better receivers than they are. But I agree, maybe a 3rd, 4th round max type of guy.
Yeah. So you look at Spencer Rattler, though. I look at Rattler as the future number 1 pick in the next in 2 years. That's how I project him, just on a guess.
On a guess, you're right. And how big is Spencer Rattler?
6'1".
Okay.
A lot of 6'1s, right?
I mean, are we saying he's 6'1" because he's 6'1"?
I'm pretty confident in this guess. And it's not even a guess. I'm confident. I've looked up Rattler. Okay. He is correct.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm just like actually at this point looking. I'm like fact checking you at this point.
You could actually be lying and embarrassing me on the show.
I could send you.
Here's the thing about Rattler. He's 6'1", right? He's from Pinnacle High School in Arizona.
He is not 6'1", buddy.
You gotta be kidding me. They overlisted him at 6'2".
Nope. Do you want me to do this to you right now, Spencer?
Are you really gonna say 6 foot?
Spencer, just so you think I'm not lying.
He's 6 foot. What, are you sharing this with me?
No. I did that. I was gonna do it, but you know what?
Rattler, he's the same size as Mayfield, okay, and they're like 6'1" quarterbacks.
I agree. Spencer Rattler has a chance to be really special. I mean, I would agree. I'm not high on him, but anything that Lincoln Riley gets a chance to work with for multiple years. I mean, shoot, you're talking about a talented kid.
Yeah, why are you not high on him though?
I mean, it's just one of these deals that he couldn't even, for a guy that you would project to leave early, right? Basically, a guy that you're projecting to kind of leave early by junior year, senior year, why would you redshirt him then? He couldn't even win the backup job last year. He barely played,
It's because, I'll tell you why. It's because you have Jalen Hurts there, And Jalen Hurts is very accomplished, and Spencer Rattler is very cocky. I think in a very good way. He is kind of cocky and annoying. He thinks he's tremendous, and also like last year at Ohio State, Justin Fields was in a quarterback competition. End quote. Just like this year, there's a competition between Mordecai and what's his name, Spencer Rattler. There's no competition there. And also Lincoln Riley could have brought in another transfer quarterback. He could have been at the Jamie Newman sweepstakes.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, why did Mordecai win the backup job last year when Spencer Rattler, I'm sorry, I was tripping over my tongue there. Why would you give him those reps, Mordecai, all last year?
Maybe out of politeness, kind of like the Austin Kendall, West Virginia thing. Anthony Muchucha, and also Rattler against South Dakota. Before I think Rattler got hurt, he was the second guy on the field against South Dakota in the first game of the season. Anthony gives us a $10 donation. You guys are entertaining. Most definitely, my man Spence. Anthony, I really appreciate the donation. Thank you to Anthony. So, Dave Longhorns, we're here. College football. I absolutely cannot wait.
I can't wait. And the only thing I think we can guarantee for college football this year in this crazy time is everything you're hearing. They will be playing SEC football come hell or high water.
Damn straight. And a great quote from the West Virginia governor. They're not in the SEC, but I'm going to suit up. Did you hear that?
No, I did not. I have not.
And Mississippi's the only state, I think Kentucky and Mississippi, they'll ride in Mississippi if they're not playing college football.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the SEC, like, is it possible, Dave, that the SEC could break away from the NCAA, or is that ever going to happen where the NCAA is in trouble and some leagues are just going to go independent from them in the following years?
I think you would need at least 30 teams kind of to make it like a semi-pro type of league,
Right.
If you get 30 big-time schools to do it, it's possible.
So here's the thing, Dave, and I'm not going to go into the whole like NCAA thing. I'm actually going to go back to the SEC. If we get SEC football, you get Big 12 football, little Big 10, I'm actually fine without the Pac-12, and you get a full season of SEC football, that is still pretty solid. Even you could crown a champion, I would actually sign up for that.
I don't disagree. And maybe depending on how things are working out with, scheduling and stuff like that, you might have the best year of football you've had because maybe you just get really good scheduled out conference games. I think, things will kind of be, makeshift, but you have Big 12, SEC, from what you're reading, part of the Big 10. I don't know. So you might have to makeshift some conferences, It could be fun. It definitely could be fun. ACC, you're going to get part of the ACC, so maybe the ACC and the Big Ten can combine.
This is tremendous news for Tom Herman. This is tremendous news for Will Muschamp, coaches that are on the hot seat. Who would want to fire their coach during this season?
Impossible. It's an impossible ask of AD. And you already have the built-in excuse. Well, we didn't do all spring. Our summer program's messed up. All this good stuff. Everything's a built-in excuse. So, it is what it is.
Absolutely. I am excited for football. Last night we wrapped up the documentary, The Last Dance. We'll kind of put a bow on that. We've been doing this every single Monday with Michael Jordan. First, what were your thoughts on the 2 episodes last night?
I thought they were pretty good. I mean, I think it gives maybe going back, I didn't realize what a struggle they had with the Pacers. I mean, I kind of don't remember that series. I remember the Utah series real well, as a kid. So I would have been about 10 years old or going to be 9, going to be 10. I did not realize that it was a 7-game series with the Pacers. I never thought about it, but it was good. I think a little bit of a BS, type of quote, with the whole, we would have brought back the team and like the underhanded gesture of Reinsdorf you see at the end going to Phil, you have the right to, run this back, even though Jerry Krause had made that, quote, they could go 82-0 and this is over.
Right.
I think some of that stuff was good. The only thing that bothers me about The Last Dance, and obviously this is first circumstance, the guy's dead, is Krause just doesn't have a chance to defend himself. And it seems like Reinsdorf kind of takes away a lot of the blame that would go into that of, breaking up the team. Well, he had to employ Krause, he had to, keep saying he was the right guy. And yeah, I know Reinsdorf at the end, they say, tells Phil, you can come back and coach, you have the right to defend this. But at the same time, it was like, you read in between the lines, they weren't going to bring back most of the team anyway. So Phil knew that this was an underhanded gesture that, you can come back. But, long story short, we know you're not going to take this offer because this is not going to be what you actually want.
Dave, you're 1,000% correct, because Reinsdorf could have just fired Jerry Krause.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about the doc. I think Krause died in 2016. Is that correct?
2016, I believe, 2017, whatever it was.
They could have gotten quotes from the guy, but they just never did.
Yeah, I don't know that he was alive when they greenlit this.
It is so hard to rebuild in basketball. You're seeing with the Cavs how difficult the rebuilding process is, and I guess you just have to hit on the draft pick. I mean, the Sixers, they did the whole tanking thing. I kind of get tanking because you don't want to be like the middling 8th seed. You don't want to be the Detroit Pistons. I guess what's your philosophy on team building like that?
A lot of different ways to go about it. I think a lot of it just ends up being draft luck. And what I mean by that, you can say, well, the Sixers tanked and really there's been nothing to prove that they're right, and you can say, well, they're not 8th seed middling, but, could they be 4th seed middling? Like, could be back-to-back years of conference semifinals, and they just were completely uncompetitive for like 4 or 5 years. I don't even know if it's been worth it at all in any way, shape, or form,
It's kind of like you're saying, like, even if you get to the East, to the conference finals, it's really not worth it if you can't go anywhere from there.
Yeah, and also the Sixers have only gotten to the semifinals. They haven't even gotten to a final yet. And then, the Bulls, if you do some history behind it, I think it's a year after that, they get rid of MJ, immediately they become the worst team in the NBA. And then they draft Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry. I forget what the exact trade was, and they move up and I think they trade for Chandler. I forget what the exact, details of all that was. But, you get two guys who really with Chicago never really 100% work out. Curry was really a bust in the NBA, and Chandler, like, at that high of a pick, wasn't a bad pick, but he wasn't a big impact guy that's going to change a franchise in any way,
What was Tyson's draft? Top 5?
2.
Oh my God. And Oliver Camby, who was the guy on the Clippers? Who was number 1, I think?
But I don't even know if that was the same year,
They just were enamored with big guys, right? And during that time period.
Yeah, but you got to remember they traded up for Chandler and got the number 2 pick. I forgot what the exact trade details were, and
Yeah.
They took Chandler 2 and Eddie Curry 3, if I'm not mistaken, in the same draft.
Big guys other than Dwight Howard that high really just don't pan out. In recent, maybe Shaquille was the last one to really pan out.
No, Dwight Howard panned out completely.
Yes.
Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, that's a good one. But Marvin Bagley has not really panned out.
No, he has not.
And I thought that he was like the safest player in that draft because of maybe the lefty, because he could shoot it. And it is amazing that Phoenix, like that the coach of Phoenix basically coached Luka Doncic and did not pick Luka Doncic. Isn't that correct?
I think Luka Doncic, you got to remember, makes very clear to the NBA that, he had a lot of bargaining power that most rookies don't because he already had a big contract overseas. He made very clear to the NBA, I'm going to Dallas. I don't know how well documented out there it is, but I know people from within the Atlanta Hawk organization very, very, very well. And basically, he told the NBA, "Hey, Dallas is picking number 5. That's where I'm going." Obviously, he got picked number 3 by Atlanta, and that trade was made, according to my friend, who is, you know, very high up there.
Yeah.
He chose the Mavericks more than the Mavericks chose him. And the Mavericks were very happy to comply with it.
And that was days before the draft, weeks before it.
I'm told a good month before the draft, they knew that, they knew that it was going to be a Trae Young for Doncic swap. Like 3 weeks before the draft, they knew this.
And they even knew the
exact swap.
Well, they knew, yeah, even the future pick.
Yeah, they know that Ayton's going to number 1 there.
Bagley.
The Kings had some interest in Doncic at 2, but there's that whole thing between Vlade and Doncic's dad. Vlade used to, really rip into his dad back in the day. Doncic's dad was a very talented player, but lack of a better word, alcoholic, and just never did anything with his talent in the Serbia, Yugoslavia type of deal. And just Doncic and Vlade's dad never saw eye to eye. So there was a lot of bad blood and history there between the two. And that was never going to happen.
Wow. And the Kings could have fired Vlade.
Yeah, it just wasn't happening, either way.
This is amazing. And Trae Young was never considered amongst the top 2.
No. Trae Young was always going to be 5 to the to the Mavericks, which really is 5 to the Hawks.
So number 4 in the draft was Mo Bamba, or was it the Magic that had a pick in between there?
Let's look at that.
Go pull it up.
Let's pull it up because I don't want to give that.
But that is still incredible. And you know what the thing that's incredible, Dave, is that even people like Woj or the people on ESPN, they'll always debate that trade between the Hawks and the Mavericks, and nobody will ever
real trade though. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I guess for the purpose of
Jared Jackson Jr. is
the Grizz.
Yeah.
And I guess Conley was still going, so they weren't going to go with a point guard. Here's the thing, actually, Dave. Here's the thing: is that I think for segments on television, that is not a sexy segment to just downplay this whole trade.
Oh no, it's not a sexy segment for television, but it's the reality of what the NBA was.
And that's the thing. You can't blame Atlanta then. Actually, Atlanta ending up with Trae Young and not Marvin Bagley. I would even take Young over Ayton. I really like the way Atlanta's building.
And really, basically, the reality of that trade was Trae Young was always going to the Hawks, okay? And I think the reason why it had to be a trade, if I'm not mistaken, was that the Grizzlies had made unequivocally that they didn't care that if Doncic were to fall to them, that they were going to take him. And then, their organization philosophy was, if he doesn't want to play for us, then make him stay in Europe. We're not trading him.
Oh, Luka.
Yeah, so that's why the trade had to be made, and it was made that way.
Oh, Atlanta took Luka at 3.
Atlanta takes Luka at 3, and then that's why the trade gets made that way.
Oh my! And Luka was begging the Hawks to select him.
Yeah, this is a trade that was made, long before that.
It'd be hilarious. The Grizz just go up to 2 with the Kings and take Luka. And then Luka's a villain forever, like Chandler Parsons is to that city.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think eventually you just come over and you play, but I think it makes everything a lot easier. And
there's so much stuff, man, that goes on.
His name, I think Adam Silver has a lot of say into making things easier for teams. I think he has more say than he would like to kind of make you believe. He just always comes off as this super nice, super woke type of individual.
Nerd, hobbit.
Nerd. Hey, what do I know? I'm just, out here doing what's best for the league. And he's out here making power plays all the time.
I know. Where Stern, I appreciated how just Stern was just doing his thing. Like Stern, there was no hiding that shit.
No, not at all.
Stern with the amazing Hornets, Chris Paul, Clippers thing. And then Silver just acts like he's holier than thou at a bunch of points, and the media is just in his pocket completely. So basically, like, Silver is kind of pulling on the strings. In fact, we could point to a conspiracy. Anthony Davis leaves. Silver feels really bad. Alvin Gentry ends up getting the replacement of Davis.
Hey, I don't disagree with you.
Grizzlies needed pop. They get John Morant. They get a South Carolina and a rural Kentucky kid to come. A perfect fit as well for the NBA league. The Lakers get bounced really into the top four. Actually, the Knicks also did very well in that draft. But I guess here's the point, though: Zion to the Knicks would have been a tremendous sell for basketball.
Yeah, it would have been a great sell. I mean, obviously, as a Knicks fan, I wish, but it didn't happen. So
I like RJ Barrett.
RJ Barrett's good. He's not Zion Williamson, but it is what it is.
Yeah, RJ Barrett. I think once he learns how to shoot the basketball and once he kind of takes a hold of this team, I think RJ is going to be a tremendous, tremendous player in the league. I do. I think he'll be good. Last thing, Dave. It's so funny how Reggie Miller referenced the 6-minute play. That 3-pointer just sucked the whole game away. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in that sort of momentum and in terms of plays like that?
Yeah, I think if you look back at it, and I kind of looked back last night on the play-by-play, it seemed like a snowball to me. I think big moments can snowball quickly, in basketball. And then it's one of those deals that, when the big play happens late in the game, how basketball's games that ebbs and flows. Like, you don't have enough time to kind of get back your, 6 minutes left. They go on a run over the next, 3 minutes. Okay, there's 3 minutes left in the game. You're down 6, 7, whatever points. You don't necessarily have enough time to chip away at a lead anymore. It just doesn't happen for you.
I got a buddy here from San Diego coming into the chat. And I want to thank him for his comment because he wants to talk about golf, and this is an excuse to talk about golf. Ricky Fowler versus Dustin. Did you watch that yesterday?
I watched a little bit of it. I don't think you could have asked for much more from it. I mean, it's a
what a scene.
A tough watch, only in the sense of, I love watching golf, and the only difference between watching yesterday and then watching a tournament is you don't get the shot for shot, multiple people on the course and all those different good things where they can kind of fill some of the downtime, where it's really just 4 guys playing and it's a little bit slower. It was a little bit of a tough, slow watch, but like the golf itself, I thought was good.
You know why the watch is slow? This might be a hot take. This is going to get me in trouble in Florida. I got a lot of listeners, got a lot of people there. So I'm really putting myself out there with this one.
Put yourself out there.
I'm going to be
you
banned.
Might not be crossing state lines anytime soon.
Exactly. I might not be in Florida soon. Florida golf is the most boring golf.
Perfect weather, perfect fairways. Everything about it is perfect.
Are you being sarcastic with me or
serious. I think that's what probably makes it boring.
It's flat. No, it's flat terrain. Flat.
Yeah, I'm talking about perfect.
No long grass. No, go. No, I'm not talking about it being hard as shit. Like, I'm not talking about Shinnecock. I'm talking about I love like Whistling Straits. I love like the lakes and the oceans. And I guess there is ocean golf, but I like mountains and I love Phoenix, Arizona. My favorite tournament is the match play in Phoenix. How great was that?
Yeah, well, I think the Pacific Coast is a better coast to play on. Is a better coast in general. be playing on the beach because there's more mountains. You got to remember, the higher elevations off of beaches right away on the Pacific Ocean than in the Atlantic Ocean. Everything's a beach basically. The whole thing is a flat beach, where in California, even forget a golf course, you go out to Laguna Beach. I don't know if you've ever been there. You're basically walking down like 100-foot steps before you even get to the beach, and the beach itself is maybe 100, 200 feet of sand, and it's like whipping away the waves. So the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean are completely different, and the scenery will be different on the coasts.
Just because we're talking, Gabe, doesn't mean that I don't acknowledge your comment. I appreciate everybody logging into the show. Chuck Sharts and the Entertainer, really good friends. We always talk here on the podcast, but I see all the comments. Like, even if I can't get to it in the flow of the conversation, I don't want anyone to feel inferior or that I'm putting myself above the commenters. I had to make that clear. Look at that statement right there. The relations. But Chris Senor said he went to Farmers with Torrey Pines. But so you basically said about Laguna Beach is that you do have the mountains and you walk down, and that it just like looks aesthetically pleasing. I like Denver the same way with just the mountains.
Out west in general, like, once you get past that, once you get to that Rocky Mountain type of deal, it's like west in general becomes.
You can bomb the ball in there. There's nothing better than Tucson or Scottsdale golf. I love just bombing the ball there. No, and I think the dream, I mean, in Florida, though, if you're going to have a house, it might as well be the Bears Club where Michael Jordan lives, Jack Nicklaus's place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you could afford it.
Yeah, I think it's $1 million to get into there. So just $1 million and then you're good.
Just $1 million. Yeah, you're right.
So let's talk about this freaking match. There's no trash talk. It was like very empty. I really want personalities like very flamboyant, like even the Ian Poulter that annoys the heck out of me. Sergio, Patrick Reed would be fantastic. Just him being a complete dick the whole time. I really want to see. So, and the Tiger and Peyton trash talk, it's going to be like your classic, haha, I'm still playing football, you're not. It's going to be like PG rated trash talk, but
the Peyton Manning trash talk is good. I'm sorry. For me, it's gotten old over the last 10 to 7 years. I love Peyton Manning.
Really?
But it's it's still the same exact line all the time, my brother Eli, Tom, I'm sorry. Peyton Manning, if I've heard his joke once, I've heard it 1,000 times. I still probably laugh at it.
No, I love Peyton Manning. I don't know. He's just salt of the earth, so it's out of respect.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton's great, but
Tiger's the exact same way.
I thought some of that, did you see that Peyton's Places thing? I thought that was one of the more repetitive series I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's no offense to people who like Peyton's Places, but that's saying that Chuck E. Cheese's is an amazing place to take your kids.
Yeah, it was good. It was just
Come on, it's like Modern Family. Oh, that's the funniest comedy of all time is Modern Family. It's so watered down, it's goofy and corny. I need something a little more X-rated to really be hilarious.
Yeah, the thing about Peyton, I don't know how we even got here. I brought it up, but
I love talking about Peyton now.
Yeah, Peyton's Places. The thing that I think that really kind of lacked, it lacked a true seriousness in any real episode. It got serious maybe for maybe a 3-4 minute segment, but then it just goes back to the same goofy Peyton.
Oh, but Oma. Yeah, I love Peyton Manning. I don't think anybody hates him.
No,
he's a great guy. I'd actually rather be friends with Eli. I think Eli's actually more entertaining than Peyton.
Eli's my quarterback, so definitely.
He's a ton funnier than Peyton is. Eli's just quiet, but Eli does have those demeanors. He's a little bit quieter. Actually, I think Cooper is maybe funnier than Peyton. What do you think about Cooper on Fox Sports?
I honestly have not watched enough of Cooper Manning to make a comment on it either way. So it'll be very interesting, in the future here. I think he's going to start taking a more prominent role on Fox Sports, if I'm not mistaken, also. So it'll be interesting.
Eli's not the most quarterback. He's not the most boring quarterback to watch. I think Phillip Rivers is a lot more hateable than Eli Manning there. Just a Chargers fan. They just love to hate on Eli, calls him pale and boring. Come on. So the thing is about this Peyton Manning, I'm excited to watch him play golf. I really am excited to watch him play golf.
Peyton and Tiger are minus 200 favorites, so it'll be very interesting. So obviously they know something about Peyton's game compared to Tom Brady's.
I think Tom Brady's the alpha. If they put Tom and Tiger and Tom, it would be over. I think they would kill them. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know who's a better golfer. I'm assuming that they're basically lining it as that Peyton's better golfer than Tom.
Oh, because it's minus 200?
Yeah. Because Tiger would not be that in any match play with Phil by himself. When they played that whatever the match or whatever, I think Tiger was like a minus 130.
I just took Chris and you're out with that Phillip Rivers comment. Says he's bleeding all over the place like Leona Lewis having a period.
That's funny.
Basically, he says, I'm bleeding everywhere. Yeah, Phillip Rivers, I mean, they one time won 12 games, and then they one time lost to Mark Sanchez. Then one time they had Nate Kading attempting to make a field goal. And that's pretty much the story of the LA Chargers. And then they left the Chargers, and nobody would even make a 2-hour drive to watch that team even play.
I remember I was at one of those playoff games when I was going to college, and I think I was at the Nate Kading game, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember who they played. I remember I was at a playoff game when they were like maybe the 1 seed or the 2 seed.
The Jets, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the Jets game. You're actually 100% right. And they choked it away at home.
It was beautiful.
I just remember everybody there just going crazy. I just don't remember who they. And you know me, I remember like everything.
Chad Pennington, Herm Edwards.
Yeah, it was just one of those beautiful games that. Yeah,
it's just so funny.
Expected to win big, and they just didn't.
I love watching teams like the Chargers that like every year it's like this is their year, and then they just get smacked. Like how about the Patriots just absolutely smacking the Chargers, putting them back in their place?
Some teams are just not meant to win. There's a difference between great teams and little teams, and as my good friend Ahmad Rashad said last night, some people can and some people can't.
Ahmad making the appearance. Ahmad was great. And Ahmad, don't tell Scott Burrell that. He'll shit himself.
You are instructed not to speak to Scott Burrell. He will shit himself, or you will scare the shit out of him. So basically, Jordan telling Ahmad how to do his job again, going to our theory last week of, Michael Jordan really employed Ahmad Rashad more than Ahmad Rashad was employed by NBC.
It's sad for Ahmad now. We'll never talk about him again.
No, but, we have to put a wrap on Ahmad. We love him. He's a great guy.
We'll honor Ahmad with 3 minutes of Ahmad every week.
I don't know if I can give 3 minutes for Ahmad.
Oh, come on. You're going to have to. I'm going to cut you off the pod.
Okay, you know what we'll do for Ahmad next week? We're going to talk about his playing days at the Buffalo Bills and all that good stuff.
Yes, Chris, let's talk about the Chargers some more. So here's the thing about the damn Chargers is that there was a part of me, and I'm going to bring this back to our conversation here. We have a big audience here, a lot of people commenting, so we're keeping it rolling here late into the night. The LA Chargers, when the Chicago Cubs were playing the Indians, a part of me wanted the Indians to win because I didn't want to see a world where the Chicago Cubs won a championship. Does that kind of make any sense to you? Like I like just things just fitting into place a little bit. Like I don't like a ton of change.
I think that it's like one of those deals that I'm a Yankees fan, so there was always that curse of the Bambino type of deal. It's like you love that storyline year in, year out. And then once it's over quick.
Yes.
And so, like as a sports fan, it's like, what's the next storyline? So I could appreciate that because, the day that the Red Sox won their World Series, and I think they swept that year, if I'm not mistaken, after they beat the Yankees in 7 games.
Yeah, John, I think it was the Cards, or I know that they beat the Card, yeah.
Yeah, they beat the Cards, and it's like, you kind of like wake up the next morning, it's like, what now? Like my whole life, I remember the curse of the Bambino, and it's like, How do we go now?
I think the euphoria of baseball for me. I just cared about it more when I have a couple Mets people in here, but I just love the villain that Roger Clemens and Mike Piazza. Like that was one of my favorite things ever growing up is Clemens, how big of a dick he is, the Rocket. Just love everything about him and Jabba Chamberlain. But the greatest moment, Dave, I think it's not even the World Series. I guess the Bernie Williams catch in the World Series to win the World Series, or I guess if you're a Yankee fan, it might be A-Rod in the World Series, or maybe for you remember the Braves ones. But it was the Aaron Boone home run. 1,000,000% is my favorite baseball memory ever.
Aaron Boone home run is an absolute moment of all moments. It was a beautiful moment. I remember. How do I say this nicely? Well, whatever time of the night it was, he hits that home run, in like the 15th, 16th, 17th inning.
Oh, yeah.
And I just start running around. I leave my house and run around my street screaming at maybe like 1, 2 in the morning, I could have been in middle school at that time.
I think I remember that too.
No, I was in high school at that time, actually. And
even better. You're like 18 years old.
I think I was a freshman in high school, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I was so excited. It was unbelievable.
How about your dad and your parents?
My dad told me to get the hell back into the house and stop causing a ruckus.
Here's the greatest memory that I'll kind of relate that to. Well, I was jumping around. I was upstairs. I remember that game. And it's on the TVs that are not high definition TVs. So it's like it just is even more iconic. I kind of remember the AI over Tyronn Lue in the same way. But the ultimate run around the house moment was the Matt Gay field goal and going the 2-2. Greatest moment of my life. No, I'm completely fucking with you there.
I love
it. The real kick. I was talking to my Grammy on the phone. My Grammy lives like in North Jersey.
Lawrence Hines.
Lawrence Hines against the Packers. I was over the house with friends that are like Eagles friends or, kids in 7th grade. They only care about girls and weed, so they barely care about football anyway. But when Lawrence Hines missed that field goal, that might have been the lowest moment. That's when I was starting to think of the Giants cursed, and that field goal was hooked so badly.
Which one are you talking about now?
The one to win. 36-yarder at the end of regulation, the win. The NFC. Game? The Packers game.
Yeah, and he hit it.
No, he missed 2 in the fourth quarter.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm you know what? I can only remember the one he made in overtime.
So you even remember he missed the easiest one, and then they're debating should he even kick this one?
You're right. Now I remember. For so long I've forgotten about that. It's just because you remember the end result of winning.
So it was the run around the house moment.
Yeah, it definitely was a big moment.
What hurt?
Actually, I remember being in my car driving back up to Notre Dame Prep. Because it was a long weekend. I was driving back up. I think I was somewhere in the middle of Massachusetts, and I was like punching my steering wheel so hard when he won. I think my hand was bruised and pretty battered. I was so excited.
So you were listening to the radio? You wouldn't even pull over?
No, I was listening to the radio.
Maybe it's better luck. I was listening in the car when Aaron Rodgers threw the Hail Mary. What is a worse moment? Luis Gonzalez single, Johnny Damon grand slam.
Oh, Luis Gonzalez single, because Johnny Damon grand slam, like that game was such a blowout even at that point. You could tell the game was spiraling for the Yankees early, But the Luis Gonzalez single, I mean, you're bottom of the ninth, game 7, got the best pitcher in the world on the mound. I mean, you expect to win it. The Johnny Damon grand slam was early in the game. The game ends up being a huge blowout.
I think the Yankees were tied though, not winning, or were they winning against the Diamondbacks?
Oh, they were winning going into the 9th. I mean, the Luis Gonzalez single might have been tied. I think it was, but they were winning going into the 9th.
There's certain guys.
Mariano's like only blown save in world, like in.
Wait, they were winning going into the 9th?
Yeah, it was like the first time he ever blew a save in the postseason.
I hated most of the teams in the early 2000s. You had Josh Beckett, who was really unlikable, and the Marlins.
Definitely a hard to like character.
Kevin Youkilis.
Yep.
The hardest. Pedro.
Yep. Pedro is not. I had a lot of respect for Pedro, believe it or not.
Believe it or not, like when the guys got older, I sort of were like, damn, those guys were so good to root against. I missed them. Like Ortiz and Manny are like those guys when they get older. You're like, I missed the antics a little bit.
I would agree with that.
Would you agree with that? Here's a very unlikable team. It is Mike Scioscia and the Anaheim Angels.
Oh my God, I hated them. That rally monkey, it drove me insane.
Gave you some nightmares?
Of course. And then the Yankees, every time they play the Angels anyway out there, it seems like they always struggle.
And those rocks in center field, the rock in center field.
Yeah, just like, they play these games every year. And like, the games are always at like 10 o'clock at night on the West Coast. It's tough.
Someone says Trot Nixon. Was he on the it was Troy Gloss that I hated.
No. Trot Nixon was a Red Sox that like was beating the Yankees, if I'm not mistaken. And I hated him too.
Oh, Chris Senior, Chipper Jones was very likable, actually.
Chipper Jones is just, the most likable guy anyone's ever liked.
I would say you mean that sarcastically?
Yes.
I'd say Ken Griffey. No, I was really rooting for the Giants and Barry Bonds to win over the Angels. I'd say
I hated that rally monkey like with a passion.
Here's an interesting team that a lot of people like that I have no feelings towards. It's the Texas Rangers, and it's kind of funny seeing them lose. What do you think about that?
My best friend, he's a diehard Texas Ranger fan, so.
Okay, and they're kind of cursed, and nobody talks about it.
I watched that Game 7 or whatever.
Freeze.
Where Nelson Cruz had a chance to win it, just to catch the ball and win it, and he somehow misplays it against the Cardinals, and the rest is history from there.
Darren Erstad, going back to the Angels, Tim Salmon,
all these great players.
Oh, I think
Garrett Anderson.
Yeah, Theo. No, you know what it is? No, they didn't have that
David
little
Eckstein.
guy. Oh, yeah, he was on that team?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Really hateable. He played on the Cardinals, too. Cardinals are a great baseball town, though. I kind of always respect it.
That's what the narrative will tell you.
Joe Buck's favorite team.
Of course.
Joe Buck. You know what I was watching? You know what the greatest segment in television history? It's Joe Buck and our boy Artie Lang.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a whole nother.
That's a whole nother show. I miss Artie so much, but
that's a what's it called? That's a whole show itself.
Oh man, I know. Tonight was really fun. We talked about a little bit of NBA stuff, conspiracies. Oh my gosh, we talked about Ellinger. We got into some stuff. It was a very raw and typical Rover and Davey Longhorn show. Chris Senior, the Charger fan. I got to get even more material about the Chargers for next week. I should just shit on them all the time.
I think we should do a Chargers, a little bit of a 20. I'll be prepared for it. 20, 25 minutes all on the Chargers and the history of the Chargers and whether Chris agrees with it or not.
And then Ahmad Rashad.
Well, I'll give you 30 seconds of Ahmad.
Sam Darnold, how much time?
15 seconds.
The funny thing about Darnold is he really is a nice guy, but I wonder if Darnold saw me at a party, like if he would know me.
Face.
You really think he could?
Well, he would.
He actually could. He's actually bigger than me. It doesn't seem that way.
15 seconds.
You mean we got to wrap it up?
No, I said that's Darnold's 15 seconds for the night.
Oh my God, you're right. Actually, I'm gonna get Astasia Courtney on the next podcast.
There you go.
That's the guest we're getting. Look that up deep down the rabbit hole, guys, if you're out there. You know what, Dave? First, let's just go live and react to Gulfstream and have some beers. How about that?
They read. Do you want to live stream Gulfstream?
Racing at Gulfstream.
Should we do it? A little.
I'm planning on already looking at Thursday.
Is Thursday? Is it open on Thursday?
It's Churchill and Gulfstream.
Gulfstream, the number one race yesterday was 24-1. It was just
that one.
That one, yeah.
Oh,
It was 24-1. I did not bet.
Gosh, and you know what it is? The 24-1, the history of that horse is that it comes in about 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe a 9th place finish. The best is a 5th place finish. Like maybe 2 years ago, it came in 3rd. It's an old horse.
I'm sure that's what it was.
The jockey sucks too.
And then where everything goes right for one day.
But Santa Anita is just too far out in the West Coast. I don't really watch California. I like the Midwest a lot, like Fauner Park in Nebraska.
For all of our listeners out there, if you're a horse racing fan, the TVG app, I couldn't speak about any higher. If you're in New Jersey, it's 4NJ Bets. Great app. It's the same thing as TVG. You get all the horses, live stream them all. It's a beautiful app. The interface is great.
Use promo code Dave Longhorns.
I wish.
Save 5% on future bets.
I wish, but it's a great app. You can watch from here to Australia at any time. You know, I was watching races in New Zealand yesterday. It was great.
No English, blurry feed. Now I can't lose money on something that's happening that far down the globe.
Yeah, it is what it is. Well, what's the difference between that or if it's,
I don't know. Just America. I have a better sense. It's Florida.
I was watching. You want to know like a weird track? It's this one in it's something Downs in Oklahoma. Now that's like a schlocky track. Oh my god.
Oh, I know what you're talking. It's like Will Rogers.
Will Rogers Downs.
Yes. It's like the name of a rest stop.
Is the schlockiest track. You see the fence on the other side is like bending over. Like if one of these horses like wants to go to the right, they can go into Oklahoma itself because that fence isn't holding anything in.
Joe Exotic's backyard's right there.
I mean, it's awful.
The jockeys are 6 feet tall.
Like the dirt looks like, you know, it's dirt's so high. Like
every race is just like it's maybe like a furlong. It's a sprint.
I watched one race yesterday and like
I love it.
I watched one race and I'm not gonna lie to you, I had no idea what I was really like watching. I didn't look how long the race was or nothing. I found out that this race was 300 yards.
That's when you know you're in a good spot.
It was like I took one of them. It was like a 1-to-1, and it was a 300 yard. This thing came out like a shot of hell. I'm like, okay, we're in a good position. And I realized it was over. I'm like, shoot, 10 seconds later, I won.
You won. That might be the smartest thing. We just got to bet the shortest races ever.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I love, you ever go to a turf club and you see guys that can't even speak English and they're like, you know, this one is a good one, this one, go. There's nothing like the old guys with the pencils talking about pick fours. That's the pinnacle of life right there.
Oh, it's the best.
I know. And even for football too, the cigar room at a sports bar where it's unbearable to sit in.
Of course.
Oh, I just love those people. I love the best thing. Last story, and it's probably not even going to be that funny of a story, but it's late anyway. Carson Wentz there was this guy, I don't know where he was from. He's from like a Spanish speaking country. He bet on Carson Wentz. He's like, and it was the Seahawks game where Carson sucked, you know, early in the season. He's like, this Carson Wentz is a terrible quarterback. This Carson Wentz sucks. He like, Nick Foles is a really good quarterback. What the hell are they doing? Carson Wentz, this guy's a horrible quarterback. And he just kept screwing up. Oh, it was so great.
I love it.
Oh, man, you love it, don't you? That was the day when the Giants played the Bears. I think I bet the Giants. And the Giants played a first half of immaculate defense. And then Mitchell Trubisky hit an 80-yard throw in the third quarter. And that's like, I'm leaving this bar. I'm so mad.
And then the Giants eventually cover on back end, I think.
I think because Daniel Jones hit a 4th and 20 throw.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones would get the luckiest, I swear, last year. It was so much fun to watch. We're an hour and 25 minutes down the rabbit hole.
There we go, man.
Down the rat. That's the art of doing a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. You just got to talk. talk about Gulfstream, talk about whatever comes to mind. Had a great audience interaction throughout. We're going to get out of here. It's Davey Longhorns. It's Rover. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.